The 15th time I saw that pristine white BMW blocking my driveway, I knew something had to give. Each day it sat there felt less like inconvenience and more like psychological warfare. And the woman behind the wheel, Brenda Whitfield, wasn't just a careless neighbor. She was a predator who knew exactly what she was doing. I could see it in her smile, the smug curl of her lips whenever our eyes met. She wasn't blocking my driveway by accident. She was declaring war. I'd just gotten home after a 12-hour shift, fixing broken appliances, my truck sagging with spare parts, exhaustion heavy in my bones. But seeing her BMW stationed across my driveway snapped me awake. This time, she wasn't even pretending. She stood there with a tape measure, heels clicking against asphalt, calculating angles as if my driveway were a battlefield. When I rolled down my window and told her she was blocking me, again, she tilted her head like she'd never heard it before. Then came the honeyed voice, fake sweet enough to rot teeth. "Marcus, I'm conducting surveillance for community safety. HOA business." She liked that word, surveillance. It rolled off her tongue with a weight that made my stomach turn. Emily, my 8-year-old daughter, leaned out her upstairs window then and asked the obvious. "Daddy, why does that lady look so scared every time she looks at Mr. Dale's scrapyard?" That's when I noticed it. Brenda's nervous glances down the street toward Big D's scrapyard. Something about that place rattled her, though she tried to mask it with confidence. Emily wasn't just watching. She'd been recording everything on a small camera mounted on her windowsill. My daughter, innocent but sharp, had just shifted our little feud into something much bigger. The next morning, the trap Brenda set became undeniable. At the exact moment I tried to back out to drive Emily to school, the BMW rolled into position, perfectly timed, blocking me in. Not chance, precision. Emily had already been keeping notes, tracking patterns. She looked like a miniature detective in the passenger seat. "Daddy, she shows up exactly when we need to leave. She knows our schedule better than we do." Then Ruth Kellerman appeared at my window, silver hair gleaming under the sun, holding a notebook thick with meticulous records. She'd been watching too. 23 times Brenda had blocked me in 1 month, always when I needed access. Ruth wasn't just a neighbor, she was a retired CPA. Numbers, patterns, irregularities were her lifeblood, and what she'd uncovered made my blood run cold. Brenda wasn't even a real HOA president. She just declared herself one after her husband died and had been pocketing monthly fees ever since. No elections, no records, just theft. Emily chimed in with another piece of the puzzle. "She takes bags to Mr. Dale's scrapyard twice a week. He gives her money. She looks scared." That sent me straight to Dale. He was built like a refrigerator, navy tattoo still inked across his forearm, hands the size of dinner plates. At first, he brushed off Brenda's visits, but then his face darkened. "She doesn't bring scrap to sell. She pays me to destroy things. Electronics, metal, always asks if my compactor can erase traces. That's not normal, Marcus. That's evidence disposal." The thought iced my veins. If Brenda was destroying evidence, what else was she hiding? My answer came that night. Emily had footage of Brenda crouched under my truck at 2 a.m., attaching something. When I showed the video to Jake, my best friend and the most honest mechanic I knew, he didn't mince words. "That's a GPS tracker. Probably with audio. This isn't neighborhood drama. This is surveillance." I started digging into Brenda's background. The real HOA had been dissolved years ago. Everything she'd built was a facade. Worse, Ruth discovered she was working with Councilman Derek Mills, issuing fake fines and code violations, running a racket that bled the neighborhood dry. Then things turned ugly. My phone buzzed with anonymous threats. "Drop your little investigation or face consequences." My brake lines were cut clean through, precise enough to be deliberate. Emily only spotted the hydraulic fluid before it was too late. Brenda stopped pretending after that. Her smile turned razor sharp. Her voice dropped all sweetness. "Forget what you think you know, Marcus, or your daughter might have trouble getting home from school." That was the moment fear turned to rage. The turning point came at the community meeting. I walked in with a folder stuffed with evidence Ruth, Jake, Emily, and I had collected. Brenda waltzed in late, all scarves and jewelry, dragging her stepson Connor as her so-called lawyer. Faces of my neighbors stared at me, half skeptical, half desperate for answers. I laid it all out. Ruth's financial records, Jake's technical analysis, Emily's video of Brenda planting trackers. The room went still when Dale stepped forward with a box of electronics Brenda had asked him to destroy. "This isn't junk," he said, pulling out fragments of cameras, phones, recording devices. "This is evidence." When Emily's footage hit the wall, Brenda under my truck like a professional spy, the mask slipped. She snapped. "You fools have no idea what you're interfering with. Derek Mills isn't going to let you destroy what we've built." But the true bombshell came from Connor. He stood, voice trembling, and confessed. Brenda had poisoned his father, Harold. Potassium chloride, carefully planned, masked as a heart attack. She destroyed his car at Dale's scrapyard to erase the security system recordings that had captured everything. Harold wasn't her only victim. Ruth's records showed a trail of wealthy widowers, sudden deaths, manipulated wills, a pattern of murder. The fallout was immediate. Our houses were hit with accidents. Ruth's pipes burst. Jake's shop was broken into. My truck sabotaged. Brenda wasn't done. She escalated. At 2 a.m, Harold's name flashed on my phone screen. He'd been dead for 2 years. The voice on the other end, distorted but threatening, whispered, "Stop digging or join Harold." Then I saw it through the curtains, her BMW idling in my driveway, headlights pointed at my front door. But Brenda had underestimated us. Dale's scrapyard, the very place she'd used to erase evidence, was about to become her downfall. Dale, Jake, and Detective O'Sullivan set the trap. Surveillance. Backup units. Everything ready. At 3:17 a.m., Brenda made her move. She didn't come alone. Mills sat in a city vehicle, flanked by 2 hired thugs, gasoline and accelerants in hand. They started pouring fuel around my garage. O'Sullivan's voice crackled in my earpiece. "Subjects committing to arson. Hold position." I slipped into the darkness, leading Brenda's team straight toward the scrapyard. She chased me, desperate, believing she knew the terrain. What she didn't know was that Dale had been preparing this ground like a battlefield. When she tried to ram her BMW through his barriers, Dale's compactor came alive with a hydraulic roar. His voice boomed over the intercom. "You've used my yard to destroy evidence of murder for years. Now it's your turn. Exit the vehicle or be compacted." Brenda refused. Arrogance sealed her fate. The sight of that gleaming white BMW being crushed into a perfect cube, metal shrieking as tons of steel ground down, was something I'll never forget. Inside, Brenda screamed, confessions spilling out too late. Mills and the thugs were dragged off in cuffs. And just like that, Maple Street's reign of terror ended in the jaws of a machine built for destruction. The silence that followed the next morning felt alien. No engine idling outside my house, no tape measure snapping against asphalt, just peace. The investigation spread wider than any of us expected. Brenda's hard drives revealed 5 murders, each man poisoned, each estate siphoned into her pockets. Mills's records exposed a web of corruption across the city. Prosecutors built a RICO case. Brenda got life without parole. Mills, 25 years. Their empire crumbled. Connor redeemed himself, using his inheritance to fund neighborhood protection programs. Dale's scrapyard became a gathering place, his compactor cube displayed like a monument. Ruth handled our finances with meticulous honesty. And Emily, my brave little detective, became the hero of the street. Kids called her Detective Emily, and one night she told me, watering flowers where the BMW once sat, "Daddy, I think I want to be a real detective when I grow up, to stop bad people like her before they hurt families." I hugged her then, pride swelling in my chest, because I knew she'd already done more than most adults ever would. Every time I pass Dale's yard and see that white cube sitting under the sun, I remember. Evil always underestimates the ordinary. And sometimes justice isn't delivered in a courtroom. Sometimes it's forged in steel, powered by neighbors who refuse to bow, and sealed forever in silence where a predator's smile used to live.